Massimi che saranno 11 calo sul medio basso Adriatico al sud, grazie a tese correnti del quadrante
And so now here we are. Hi everybody, and hi everybody, people that are watching the streaming. I know that there's a lot of people watching the streaming, so welcome to all the people that is watching the streaming. And the first thing to do in a night like that, in which we are going to experience again the great feelings of climbing, is to say thank you to a place that since the beginning of the history of climbing hosted the story of climbing. So it's an honor to me to introduce Roberta Maraschini, is the director of the APT Garda Trentino, who hosted the event. So Roberta, thank you to be with us, and especially thanks that again Garda Trentino support climbing. Garda Trentino always supported climbing, first of all, with its nature, with its environment, and support the sport, the outdoor sport in general, but even with the warm people that are always on the side of the sportsmen. So thank you.
But it's our tourist board that wants to thank you to be here, and we are really honored to that this event will be here tonight. We thank you very much, Adam and Jerry, these great rock climbers that will make us dream tonight with their stories. It's very important for us, also our collaboration with Adam. Adam is our ambassador, is really unique as climber, but also as person. And so we are really, really happy to promote our brand, our Garda Trentino, through this great rock climber. And for us, it's really an honor, and so we are really, really happy that you are here together tonight with all of you. And I will also say one very important thing, that on the 13th of October, there will be, for the fourth time, this champion challenge, where Adam and Stefano Ghisolfi will make this very, very nice event for climbing for all people who love climbing.
And so we will be there. But so climbing community is super strong in Arco. We again support two of the masterpieces of the climbing history. But someone told me that you are even a climber. This is the reason why you support so much the climbers.
Because, you know, when I made the selection to become director of the tourist board, I had to be able to climb, to mountain biking, windsurfing, and so on.
And so be part of this.
It's not true. It's just, I'm just joking. But anyway, yeah, just a little bit, but not at the level.
We don't care about, nobody there care about the level. Everybody there care about fun and passion,
yes,
no more than
because
this.
In our territory it's really beautiful for practicing every type of sport.
Okay, so thanks to be with us, and thanks again to Garda Trentino that hosted the event. Thank you. So guys, the situation is really hard because the two guys that I'm going to introduce is some of the most iconic figure of the history of the last 40 years in climbing world. They are both different persons because one is more shy, the other one is more expansive or loudy, and the other one is really quiet. But they're different in everything. One has a van, the other one loves sport car and sport motorbike. So crazy different person, but there are some elements in common in that 30 years of difference in the bird, I mean. And is that they are both two visionary person, and the one element who drive their life is passion. So ladies and gentlemen, make an applause to let them feel your passion and your warmth to two of the most iconic, legendary person of the climbing history, Jerry Moffatt and Adam Ondra.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, well done. Good start.
Thank you, thank you. We are really nervous in the beginning because we are like, being the stage, it's really hard. And so I want to ask you something, that if you people that are there with us, let us feel like alone in the stage, will be desperate situation. If you guys in the public will be with us, and I will ask you questions, so listen with attention to the situation, because I will ask you to do the second part of my job, the question in the second part of the show, and even I want to remember to the streaming people that they can do question even for the second part of the show. So text on YouTube, go to Adam Ondra and watch the streaming and post your questions. So people, help me to have a good show and give me another clap for that, you guys. Let them there. We are not alone on the stage. All right, now we can start. Adam, you are, I don't know which is my preferred one, but I really love you, but we have to start with the guest, because I know, you know. And so, Jerry, start with you.
Thank you very much.
I'm ready. Thank to be with us, obviously. And we are starting in the situation, so let's start with your beginning of climbing from your childhood. How you started climbing, which was the beginning of your climbing?
Well, I started climbing relative to Adam quite late. I started at 15 years old. And traditionally I came from sports at school like football and rugby, and regimented sports with a winner and a loser, a start and a finish. And then I went climbing for the first time, and I just loved the freedom. I loved that there was no rules. I loved the danger. And it was just something really new and exciting that nobody else did. It kind of felt like it was my sport, and it was something built for me. And I was attracted to it, and very quickly it was my absolute obsession. And I'd say when I was 15, I knew that when I left school, I didn't want to do a job. I wanted to be a rock climber, even though there was no professional rock climbers.
Dream of a child, realized then. But you talk about the school. I know that you start in the school.
Yes, yeah. Well, I started at school, and I struggled at school. I was dyslexic, so I found it difficult to write. I found it difficult at my maths, so I really struggled at the academic side of schooling. So I had a desire to prove to myself and to prove to other people that I was worthy and I could be good at something. And I think when I left school, that really followed on, and it gave me a real drive when I wasn't feeling motivated. Well, I was always feeling motivated, actually, but it really gave me a drive to push and show everybody that I can do it, I can be the best at something. And I really wanted to, first of all, to be the best in my school, and then the best in the area, best for my age, and that just carried on and on. You always wanted to try and push the grades of climbing and push myself physically and mentally.
All right. And Adam, what about your beginning of climbing? Since I know that you climb since you're a really, really, really young child. And so which is your beginning of climbing, the first part of your climbing life?
I mean, for me, I think climbing was more like a fate. I mean, I was born into climbing family. Like, my parents climbed, my sister climbed, and like everybody around us climbed.
Yeah.
And I was like a little kid. I was like playing under the crack, and my parents were climbing, and it was just so natural that I didn't want to be the only one who wouldn't climb. So more or less, I just somehow had to climb without my parents actually forcing me to climb, and that's quite important. And then we would still go skiing, we would still go cycling, and that's what I think many, many families do. But we were also going climbing, and like everybody around us was going climbing. Until I was 7, I was mostly thinking that like that's just normal. Everybody climbs. Everybody in this world climbs. And only back then I would realize, oh, it's maybe not really true.
Yeah, because you really thought that all the people in the world, like today go to the school, then I don't know, skiing or something like that, and climbing. You really threw that all the people in the world climb?
Yeah, pretty much. It's because climbing just felt out of all those activities we were doing, cycling and skiing, I think the most natural thing. Maybe it's also because it was me, but I just felt the best when I was climbing. That's it.
Oh yeah, and you growing up really fast from your childhood, because when you was still a child, you arrived to get one of the most strong high point of the period, because when you was 13, you get your first nay, so it's kind of part of your childhood, and I mean, you got that target so young, but you continues, it's like a starting point for you. And so, which is the desire and the dream, and how was your inspiration when at 13 you have already get the main goal of the climbing community?
I mean, let's get back to the point where I realized that not everybody in the world is climbing, and at the same time I realized that I might be quite talented, I might have been the strongest on the competition at my age, and at the same time I was super emotional, super passionate about climbing, but I was also very focused and scientific. I just set my goals for every season. Every season I wanted to get better by 1 grade at least, or better 2. And like that, I would just keep going and keep going. And when I was 8 years old, I was really inspired by one book, which is called Rockstars. And I would see Ben, I would see Jerry, I would see Wolfgang. And for me, at that moment, climbing looked like the most cool thing ever. And at the same time, I would go climbing, and that would feel so good. And at that moment, I just realized, oh, I just want to be like Jerry, I want to be like Wolfgang, I want to be one of the rock stars, because they just look so happy somehow. And I wanted to be exactly like them and be as happy as they looked on all those pictures. And at that moment, I absolutely believed that it would be possible. I didn't have any doubts about it, and that's very important. But in the end, even if it didn't came true, I would still a lot of fun on the way to become professional rock climber.
Because you fall in love with all of that world.
It was my imagination that the climbing is the most cool thing ever, and maybe it was foolish, but this perception remained. Climbing is still the most cool thing I can think of. And as soon as I touch the rock, as soon as I dip my hand in the chalk, I just feel like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, you feel like yourself in the right moment, in the right place, with the right feelings inside, I mean. And you told me that this feeling it's about fun, but to get some targets, as from the beginning especially, you have to keep your motivation high, but even train and prepare yourself on that. And so training is more about, is still about love in that process, or you feel like painful?
I mean, it's very important to realize, why do we actually train? We train in order to climb better. And for me, if I feel I'm climbing well, I'm somehow even having more fun. If I feel I'm climbing very badly, especially in terms of technique, I'm actually not having fun at all. So why do I train? I train in order to be a better climber, but at the same time, in order to be a good climber, you have to climb a lot. And for me, training sounds like a lot of sacrifice. But climbing is my passion, that's my life, that's what I love. And that's why I always try to consider training to be most of all climbing. Even though it's a campus board, it's still somehow climbing.
And that helps me a lot. If you really realize that all of this, some kind of hard work, this sacrifice, sometimes your skin is hurting, you're climbing 6 days in a row, 5 hours a day, you're just tired like crazy. But if you switch it in your mind, which is super hard, to like consider, yeah, well, I'm really tired, I don't want to do it right now, but it's climbing, I love it. And as soon as you get into it and you actually get into this climbing mode and you forget everything else, you somehow like turn the pain into the fun. This is what really, really makes you a good climber. Because if you climb with fun, you climb with open mind, and the training is 1,000 times more efficient than if you train because you have to.
Yeah.
No, you train because
Yeah.
you want to,
Yeah.
and that's the main difference.
But I think that we can ask something to Jerry about the training. Jerry, do you know something about the training or stuff like that?
Well, the stuff that we're doing was very amateur, and it was very early days in training. When I first started climbing, nobody trained. There was no climbing walls. Nobody did pull-ups. But then I've always enjoyed, like Adam said, improving. It's all about improving and climbing well. And you don't want to just climb as well as you did 2 years ago. You want to climb as, you always want to improve. And the best way to do that is training. So back in the late 80s, living in England, it was cold and wet. There was no climbing. So we developed, I bought a house with a really good cellar, and I thought I'm going to put a 45-degree board and a horizontal board in there, put some holes on it. At the time, you couldn't buy any holes, so I got these wooden holes and I screwed them on. And I thought I wanted to get strong fingers, so I put very small holes on, and I thought, yeah, I can get that, I can get that. I put all the holes on. After a couple of days, I put my boots on, and I couldn't climb anywhere on the wall. I couldn't do any of it, but I'd screwed them on, and I couldn't take them off, so I chiseled all the holes and made them all better, because I was way too ambitious.
The only route you chipped in your life.
I chipped the hell out of that one. I made up for it. So
But it was a wood route.
Yeah, it was wood. It was all wood because you couldn't buy them. And I went to the hardware store and I bought some doorknobs for cupboards to open the cupboards. So I put all these doorknobs on there, and you had these little pinches. So you're going up there on these tiny pinches. And for climbing in England, it really revolutionized our climbing and training, and it pushed our standard. And I believe we did routes probably two years earlier than we would have, just because we had the 45-degree board of the horizontal board. And I climbed a lot with Ben Moon, who was my best friend at the time, and a very good climber. And we pushed ourselves, and we put numbers next to all the holds, and we had a book, and we wrote the problems in there: first ascent, second ascent, with a grade. So it was like climbing outside, and that pushed you, because I wanted to do something that Ben couldn't do. He wanted to do something that I couldn't do. And it really changed climbing. It's interesting, that was in the late 80s, and I think even now, still people are climbing on one of the most popular things to climbing is the 45-degree overhanging board and climbing on a wooden hold.
Yeah, maybe today is more resin or Posidec holds, but there's a lot of people that still climb in.
Yeah, they're just bigger and better. Mine was quite small because the ceiling wasn't very high.
And expensive, I mean, even.
Yeah. I made it pretty cheap. I didn't spend much money on it.
And so, in the 80s, as you told before, you're a visionary. It was really impressive, the addiction that you give to climbing community with that kind of new training, because your training was visionary. It was really intense, really much more than in the period. Yes.
Unfortunately, I figured I wanted more quality rather than quantity. So my training sessions would typically be very short, maybe 1 hour, very, very intense on the smallest holds I could possibly hang on and the hardest moves I could possibly do. Whereas nowadays, I think the climbers would do a lot more volume. And because it was so intense, we were really getting injured a lot, because we were just, maybe climbing for 1 hour without using our feet on super overhanging things on these little doorknobs, and our fingers just went bing, bing, bing. So we had a lot of problems with injuries. So nowadays, climbing has become a lot more scientific, and I think the modern climber is doing a lot more volume. People have trainers, they know how to warm up, they know how to stretch, and it's much
following
much
on this line, from the training of the 80s, in your opinion that are a master man of training, how is changed today the way of training? Because I mean there's a kind of evolution in training in the beta, as you told me before, but even the mindset part, it's more important and considered in training.
Yes, I think one of the things that is really good with training for sort of people who are starting out is having coaches. So I think coaching is a really, really good thing, and it can really help you not get injured. And I would say one of your biggest goals for all climbers is you don't want to get injured, because it's a real horrible, dark place. You can't go climbing. So one of the key things is not getting injured. So you need a coach who's going to help you, push you to the certain amount, and just tail it back when necessary. But one of the most common things I see, that I've always seen, is people overtraining. It's all going well, then they get injured, then they get really upset and they can't go climbing. So one of the most important things is not to get injured.
Yeah, for sure. That's a base.
Yeah, I know that because I got injured a lot. I had 2 years out from 84 to 86 when I didn't do any climbing at all, with problems in my elbows.
Yeah, but in 89 you took your revenge.
Yeah,
yeah.
I came back with a vengeance, full of motivation.
Better and stronger because of it. Because
it was really nice to start climbing again.
But Adam, you know that is so addicted to training that he decided. Well, a little fun anecdote about addiction of training of Jerry. Then he has to go to BU for climbing.
Yes.
With Banff Mountain, it's
yes.
correct?
Yeah.
And so they are packaging everything. So what you put in your package, the dress and the situation was pretty cold. Which month was more or less?
Beginning of March.
Beginning of March, so more or less like that. So you will bring for sure like a stove or something like that. But when Jerry has to decide, Adam, I know that you know the answer. What Jerry choose in his luggage instead of the stove?
Baker ladder.
Backer ladder. Yeah. I chose an overhanging ladder. So we were camping out. We didn't have room for a tent, so we left the tent. All we bought was a rucksack, a carry mat to sleep on the floor, a sleeping bag, and then I had to carry this a ladder which you climb upside down, which took up a bag about this big. So I had one bag for all my clothes and my sleeping bag, and another big bag for my training equipment. And we didn't have a car either, so we had to hitchhike and walk everywhere with it. So it wasn't like we just shoved it in the car. So it was a real commitment to take that.
I guess Jerry already saw the importance of the training while you were on the trip, just as I thought the same while I was in Flatanger. But
yes.
I had the stove, or I actually had the whole house.
You have I know that you have a personal climbing gym in Flatanger.
Which helped a lot.
Yeah. So the same ideas, but different realization, even for the evolution of the situation.
Yeah, I guess it's the evolution.
Yeah. So Adam, we are talking about training, but you told me before that you want to train because you want to climb well. Because when you climb well, you feel good and that you love climbing. But so the question that comes is, which is in yourself, in your inner part, which is the thing that is your personal inspiration inside you that moves you to continue to search a new line, a new piece of rock, and that lets you see something and go for climbing it?
I mean, if I look at regular 8A and then a hard project next to it, the hard one, just by looking at it, somehow just looks so much tempting. Because first there is the line, but which is important, but then for me, even more important is the beauty of the movements. I'm total holds and movement addict. I want to search the most crazy unique movements there are. And the harder you climb, the more you're forced to climb these crazy moves, because there's probably no other way.
Yeah, and maybe to figure out new moves.
And I kind of feel that the harder I climb, the more kind of an art the climbing gets. And that's kind of like a vicious circle. If you know how good it feels to climb a 9B and how interesting and crazy moves there are, then you want to climb more 9Bs. But after a while, the 9Bs feel a bit more boring, and you want to climb harder, and you want to climb harder, and that's kind of vicious circle that I want to train more and harder because I love training, but because I love climbing and all those hard routes just so much. And it's not just the challenge part that I want to prove myself that I can climb so hard or prove to the others, but it's really that the harder I climb, the more fun it gets.
Oh yeah, this is a good reason. It's like to be addicted of beauty of climbing and addicted of love for climbing. And so I think that it's probably the only way to be really successful, because it's all about beauty and love. But about addiction, Jerry.
Oh,
no, be easy. I will talk about a strange kind of addiction that you always demonstrate, and it's really particular. It's about the addition of strong feeling, because I know that you are addicted about danger, about dangerous thing and danger in climbing.
Yes.
You free solo a lot. And so what about the condition of fear and stress and pressure that can that you live when you're in dangerous situation?
Yes. Well, it's true. When I was younger, I was really addicted to adrenaline, and I had to solo routes every day, and I had to drive full speed on my motorbike, and I was just addicted to those things. But the fear and danger, it translates into a lot of different ways, and as I got older, I wasn't so much interested in the death fear. I was more interested in putting pressure on myself after I'd worked a route for a long time, and that also had a fear and a danger. And I think you need fear and you need danger in climbing to make you concentrate. And I think that's one of the things that makes it, when you're climbing E-limit and you're trying to do new climbs and things which Adam are doing, you really need that fear and pressure, and that's going to make you concentrate and focus. And without that, you're not going to concentrate and focus. So that fear and pressure and stress, even though it's a horrible feeling and it makes your fingers sweat and you get anxious, you need that for an ultimate performance, and you need that to really make you focus and pull out something really, really special. And sometimes it can translate itself into anxiety, and you'll get too nervous and you'll fall off, you'll make a mistake, which is okay if you're doing red pointing. It's a problem when you're doing competitions. So you have to be able to learn and harness that fear and know when you feel it. This is a good thing. I can feel the adrenaline. I feel nervous. I feel ready. I'm ready for that.
So you change some feelings that in the first watch could be negative feelings for the situation that you're living in positive feelings and in power to do the situation you're in.
Yes, when I first did competitions, I didn't know what was happening and I got really nervous, but it wasn't dangerous. I wasn't going to hurt myself, wasn't going to kill myself, wasn't going to fall off my motorbike. It was just a competition. I didn't want to look stupid in front of the crowd, and I got really nervous, and I climbed really bad. I climbed really, really badly because I was just nervous, and I had to kind of figure out, and I read books on sports psychology and worked out what I should be thinking and how I can take my mind off that, visualize myself climbing better and be ready for that fear and sort of look in advance, and I think about all the negative things that could happen and what my reaction would be. So I think I am going to be nervous in 2 weeks' time when I walk in that competition. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to be ready for it. And by knowing those different things, it enabled me to go and compete to my maximum level and and climb really well in those stressful situations.
Thank you. And so, Adam, it's obvious that I have to mirror the question to you because you have climbed basically. Well, today, guys, Adam climbed his 109A of his life with another first ascent. So please make a break introduction. A clap for the 109A of Adam. And this is another achievement and success in your climbing career. I think that nobody else in the history climbed 109A. But I can believe that it was always like super motivated, super engaged, super in love. I mean, even in the most beautiful love story of love, the moment of desperation, of feeling that maybe we're not able, or I fall again after the crooks. I mean, what about you for pressure, stress, frustration, and confidence versus all of that?
For sure, there has been many moments of failures because without the failures, you actually don't get better at all. For climbing a super hard route, you fail a couple of 100 times before then you succeed once. So in a way, you have to kind of know how to like the failure. You have to know how to take the lessons out of the failure. The route should never really get turned into a nightmare. Climbing can't ever turn into the nightmare because how can the most beautiful thing in the world can turn into a nightmare? How such an amazing route which inspires me to just train for weeks so hard turn into a nightmare? That's just impossible. And once you realize it, the big things can happen. Silence now.
I don't know, everything was so weird. But it was such a strange coincidence that in the end, it worked out so perfectly. Yeah. Like, I don't know, I entered the crux like too relaxed. I've never had such a reaction after sending the route. I wanted to cry. Oh man. Oh man.
Well, you're still strong.
Včera to byl megaboj a bylo to kousek a dneska jsem udělal chybu, že jsem vlastně jako nějak nezačal bojovat, ale nějakou záhadou jsem se dostal přes krax.
Bella donna, mamma mia, alimente, ciao a Roma, Roma, Riberi, ore mio, mortadella, mortadella, mi mortadella, che sei per me, numero uno.
Flatanger is a very special place for me. It almost feels like my second home. And after spending many weeks, first trying change and then trying silence, I never really get sick of it. So we don't have any deadline this trip really. We'll just stay as long as we will want to, and potentially till I send it, but on this project you never know. I still kind of don't know how close I am, because I just can't really imagine how much harder it will get if I will link just a couple of moves below I started. So that's the goal right now. Intermediate goals are more motivating. So even though the route is about 45 meters, it's extremely bouldery. I mean, it's got this heinous boulder problem in the middle of the route. The first part is about 20 meters, 8B, juggy, steep, with lots of knee bars. And the hardest part about this easy part is not to get tired. After a good rest and a knee bar, you're facing crux 1, V15 8C boulder problem, which could easily be one of the hardest boulder problems that I have ever done. And the crazy thing about this route is that you have to do it in the middle of the route after climbing 20 meters. What makes this boulder problem so special is that even though I tried it so many times, every single time it just felt different, because there is this domino effect. One slight mistake influences the next move and the next move, and then you just keep falling all the time. I feel descending the route is actually quite far still. After a good knee bar, there's one more 8B boulder problem, crux 2. It's really short, powerful. Bad rest, and then crux 3, 7C plus boulder problem. Really good rest, and one more pretty easy but potentially heartbreaking boulder problem. And then there's the anchor in the most vertical part of the cave.
Jinou teplotu teď naměříte i v Talči, tam je ale nebe skoro zatažené, v náměstí je polojasno a 10
The route was still so hard that I had to build a simulation in my own gym so I could try it every day. I was thinking about the route all the time. I was visualizing all the time. I would keep doing campus board, but I would change the exercises only into the ones which I would find useful for the project. So I would basically just stop grabbing small holes, because there are no small holes in the project. All the holes are more or less like slopey or turned into the wrong direction, and that's what makes it hard. Then I realized it would help a lot to have a climbing gym in Flatanger as well.
At the beginning I thought, well, it's like way too much work. But then we got back to Czech Republic and Adam said it would be like so awesome to have it. It took us 6 days to build it, pretty much non-stop. And actually, even before like finishing the whole thing, Adam was already training on it.
is extremely bouldery, and it was just much more efficient to warm up on a bouldering wall rather than just doing a couple of routes up in the cave. Klaus became a very important part of the story. Based on his knowledge and watching me on the route, he would just come up with suggestions that I would never come up with myself.
Really amazing. See? You're touching the rock like this with your toes. I'm trying to help him stay injury-free and helping him to climb his project. He tried to do moves that were just not possible because some muscles are on the fully contraction and it was not possible to go further on that, but he needed to go further on that. So I had to create ideas how it would be possible to do that move.
Yeah, not to be like this, but like this.
Yeah. See, I can't do it. It's something for you.
Adam Ondra.
Yes.
Yeah. Out more. Yeah, good, perfect.
On the last trip we were here, Adam was sick, and because he was sick, he couldn't, of course, climb on the project. That means I had to find a way, let's say, that he keeps the project in his mind, in his body, and the muscle memories and the neurological pattern in his head as good as somehow possible.
We cut the route into the tiniest details, so when I was visualizing it, I would visualize with every single muscle which was necessary for each move.
It's always inspiring to see him that he's really focused on his goals. He will do everything every day, in every training session. He sometimes puts too much pressure on himself, and with this helps him his optimism. It's really interesting to see him on the rocks, because when you are there with him, you can see that right after, even 1 minute later after he fails, it's over and he's happy, he's smiling, he's talking to other people. He always stays positive. Sometimes it goes even on my nerves because I'm more like the realistic person, but he's more like the dreamer. And thanks to that, he can do everything what comes in his mind.
Jerry, you go first.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the situation is pretty emotional. So which is the process that bring you to that tears that you're crying right now to climb the first 9C?
I actually don't know if it was more emotional watching it again or climbing it. No matter what, I think I've seen this footage of sending me maybe 50 times already. But I think this time was the strongest.
Probably, I think that it's because of that people and of their feelings is the moment in which you present your best emotional moments to the world. So probably could be a reason, I don't know.
I hope it was strong. It was strong for me, for sure.
I think that I stop people to clap. I'm sorry for that. But if I not stop at them, they will last like 20 minutes. And we can try. We can try a game. People, standing on the stage. Jerry, come with me. Come with me. Come with me. It's... Okay? That's a test. È un casino andare avanti.
We're finished.
We're finished.
We can go.
We can go. We can go. I'm back. I'm obliged to stop you. I'm sorry for that, but I'm obliged to do that. Okay, the test was positive. It works. But I think that people will love to know which is your inner process that bring you to that moment, which is the inner feeling, and maybe even some situation in the cave, maybe the last pieces of the puzzle that we have not seen in the video.
I bolted this route in 2013, and back then it was just another project, which looked ridiculously hard. Theoretically somehow possible, ridiculously hard. I was kind of almost dismotivated because it just felt too hard. And that's why I just gave it like this working name, Project Hard. And it was there for a couple of years. Still, I tried it again, and I was like, maybe it's still hard, but it's possible after all. And I got obsessed. And it was, I would try so many times without really get that much frustrated, because it was just the puzzle of solving the sequence was very interesting, very fun. I don't know how many times I used the term fun, but it was.
86, I think.
And then, for sure, at certain point, it was getting maybe sometimes frustrating. After first season in Fatanger trying silence, I wasn't able to link the crux one. And that would have been so frustrating for, I think, majority of the people. Imagine you want to send the whole route, but you just can't even link the whole crux. How do you want to do it from the ground, right?
And it is in Norway, not exactly close to the home, I mean.
It's accessible. But that was like the point that made me motivated. I found a challenge which was hard enough to be challenging.
Yeah.
So I trained, I was thinking, and then it was all again. For sure, at certain moment, it kind of was turning into the nightmare. I got sick. I was not really having this confidence that I could ever do it one day. But then I would stay positive, I would stay optimistic, and I was kind of waiting for the reasons to come, the reasons that I would trust myself that I can actually do it, that I can actually do it ever, and then I could actually do it soon. And once, based on some kind of progression in the route, I would believe, yes, it's possible. It was all easy. I would go back home, train, return in late August, and from the first day I knew this time it's not gonna go away. It's gonna be there. And then once I gave it a really good try, and the next morning I didn't really feel it should be the day. It was kind of a bit warm. I felt a little tired. My thighs were tired from all the knee bars. I had my physiotherapist, Klaus, so he would like massage my thighs just before giving it a try. And that was really crucial because that made my thighs feel a little bit fresher, so I could hang in the knee bars a bit longer. Nevertheless, there was kind of like motivation. I really wanted to give it a try. At the same time, like kind of low expectation. I trusted myself that I could do it on this trip, but not necessarily that try. And that kind of was really amazing because once I got to the crux, I was just going for it. At the same time, there was this like inner carving, inner wish that I want to do it so bad. And at that try, the holds just felt so much better than ever before. And like the crux sequence was just as precise, as perfect as it could be. And almost felt easy, to be honest.
I know that sometimes happens that when you climb something in the try, you climb it. It's possible to feel it like easy, but it's funny that you desire so much to climb it in the day, and in the end you climb it not in the day that it was planned for.
Yes. Sometimes it happens like that. I think the crucial part was like Bernardo. That's the filmmaker who filmed most of my most important ascent.
Where is Bernardo? Come there, Bernardo. Come there.
Come and sit here. Come and sit there, Bernardo.
Come sit there, come on, in the center of the stage. We are there for the movie, so you have to take the seat for a while.
Great film.
What did you say?
No. Thank you. I was not supposed to be here. I hope you like it.
That was a really good film. Fantastic. That's the first time I've seen it. I wanted to wait and see it live. I'm so happy that I saw it on a big screen. Oh, really, congratulations. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
What are you about to say?
Yeah, we were in the story.
Yeah.
We just put Bernardo in my place, but we were in the story in which you are telling us that a crucial point was Bernardo.
And he told me that he thought this was the day. And he had the very same feeling before filming me on La Dura Dura.
Yeah. Also in the 9A on site.
And also in the 9A on site
Yeah.
in Basque Country. And I was almost angry because I just didn't feel it would be the day. But in the end, Bernie was true.
So you can ask the number to Bernardo, and so you can text him, today will be my day or not.
Here's the crystal ball.
Exactly, with the crystal ball. And so I'm obliged to do that. Jerry, when happens your day, which is your day in which you realize something not expected, but it was a huge relation for you?
Oh gosh, when I didn't think I was going to do it. My thing is I always thought I was going to do it. And normally I didn't do it. I think you're in a good place when you have lower expectations because it lowers the pressure. So you think Adam went and he thought, I've got nothing to lose. I don't think I'm going to do it today. But then as soon as he got through that crux, he realized that he had a chance. And
that was the hard part.
He wasn't going to let go. You're not going to let go.
In the crux 2 and crux 3, I actually got nervous.
Yeah.
But I knew there is a little bit of margin.
Yeah. But I think your unconscious just goes and you're not going to let go. You're just going to fight to hell. So if you didn't do it, it would only be because you were completely pumped. I don't think you'd have made any mistakes. It didn't look like you made any mistakes on the video. And there's so many, it looks so unbelievably technical. There's so many mistakes and it just looks like you can fall off the route anywhere because he's just super funky with the toe hooks and the upside down jams. It looks like an absolute nightmare. You know, if it's just an overhanging route on crimp, pull, crimp, pull, crimp, pull, crimp, pull, then you're okay. You know, you just get it and you pull a bit harder. But that is so funky with trying to get the toe jams. I mean, it looks like hell to memorize and do all perfectly in a sequence and get the route done. It was fantastic.
Thank you. There was a bit of mistake, I think, in my mindset. Like, after doing the crux 1, I knew I should do it. I was always visualizing, once I do the crux 1, I will never, ever fall again. But then I was there, hanging in the knee bar, and I was like,
oh, God.
I don't even want to be here. This is like hell, so much pressure. I want to be somewhere else.
That's what I was thinking.
But I have to, pull myself together, take a rest in the knee bar, and continue.
That's what I was thinking when you're in that knee bar. I was watching the thing and I'm thinking, I wonder what he's thinking there. Because he must be, he's got through the crux, he's got through the crux. Your mind must have been just going,
Luckily, it's like 3 minutes in that knee bar, so you've got a time to relax and
compose yourself.
Compose, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. It's possible that someone has a question, don't kill each other. Okay, if you want to do some question to one of that 3 guys, you're free to do it now. Come on, I'm pretty sure that the whole show you have seen till now will inspire you just at least one question. There's anybody that has a question for Adam, for Jerry, or for Bernardo? Come on, I can't trust that nobody has a question. For example, you have a question. No? Bernardo, you have the crystal ball. Who has a question in the public? Everybody, yeah, that guy with the red hairs. Give a microphone to that guy. Wow. Please stand up.
Burden of Dreams is a project?
Oh, Burden of Dreams.
Yes, definitely would be interesting to go and try. And I have so many people who are asking me about it, so I have to go and try.
You're obliged. You have the statement as to go to try it. How about the pressure? How you feel that situation, for example, in which all the climbing community expect that you try something? How do you live that part?
I mean, the most pressure that I feel from myself is the one that I set the goal and I want to achieve it, and that's the biggest pressure that I feel.
Yeah, it's just about yourself that you don't care about.
Maybe the only pressure, the only time when I really felt really, really huge pressure from the outside, or maybe expectations, one was on the dawn wall. That was like different game. But then, I mean, it's if I set the goal, I train hard, I've got some expectation. The harder I train, the more pressure I feel. But at the same time, the harder I train, the more confidence I can have. So it's very important to turn the pressure into the confidence, because I know that there are the reasons to be strong.
Yeah, the transformation that we were talking before with Jerry about to transfer the pressure and the negative feelings into performance, and that's cool. Any other questions? Oh. Yep.
Grazie. Adam, you keep on raising the bar. What's next now? Taking hardest route into big mountain projects. What's next for you or for the sport in general?
Climbing is something super broad, so you can go sport climbing, you can go bouldering, you can go multi-pitch climbing, you can go on the competitions. So right now I will focus for sport climbing for a while, then there is the competitions, the Tokyo is coming, and then maybe in the future doing more big walls. But I think even in sport climbing I can potentially still get better, but 10A, for example, is never really possible for me. I think 10A in theory for human being, it is possible, but we'll have to wait quite a lot of years for this. If ever, maybe climbing 9C+, I don't know, but right now I'm a million miles away from that. In order to climb a 9C+, I have to progress first as a climber. And then choosing the perfect route and then spend so much time on it. But you know, it is just a plus, but it's a hell of a difference. The higher you go on the grading scale, the harder it gets to progress.
All right, Adam. There's a question from the social, because we are in streaming, and so I think that it's correct to... A lot of people ask about Le Blonde and Chris' invitation about it. What do you think about it?
One of the many, many projects that I have in my mind. Let's see.
Yeah, okay. Even with Chris, you have a good relationship. I mean, La Bradura was a super beautiful route and achievement, and so why not even Le Blonde? And some people even ask you about Jerry, and Adam both. You say both. What guys about Hubble? Hubble, sorry.
Oh, Hubble.
Hubble, sorry.
Yeah. Well, it was an open project. I mean, Andy Pollitt bolted it originally,
yeah,
and did it with 1 point of aid, and then it was an open project, and who could do we were just trying to do the move, and then I figured out a way to do the move with an undercling and a toe hook, and then Ben and me were trying it together, and yeah, Ben was really strong on it, and he did it just before me. I'd done it from the underclings to the top, so very nearly did it, but I was trying to do it first, and Ben was trying to do it first, and as soon as Ben had done it, it was in 1990s, and it was in the middle of the competition season, so I decided to, as soon as Ben did it, I thought, well, I'll leave it and go back to it and concentrate on competitions, and never went back to it and did it. And it's a big regret, really, because I went on and I won the competitions, and nobody really remembers the competitions, but I really wish, in retrospect, I hadn't done the competitions and I'd stayed and finished that and focused on it while I was trying it. But it's fantastic. It's a real short, vicious, aggressive, typically English route, a little bit polished, dirty cliff. Not a very nice area.
Most beautiful place to be.
Yeah, very English. Short
it's
and
nice
aggressive.
in terms of movements, I would say.
Yeah, it's nice in terms of movements, and it's as soon as you pull on the rock, everything is pushing you off. Everything's rebelling you and saying, get off. So every foot movement is, everything is really, for such a short route, has a lot of emotion packed into a small area, don't you think?
Yeah, I can think it's really, really hard for sure. I tried it a few times. Unfortunately, never be able to do it. I would like to come back for sure to repeat this historical route. In terms of grade, I think it's hard. I think it should have been more like a first 8B plus boulder problem, which in terms of bouldering was like 10 years ahead,
yes,
which is incredible feat.
Yeah, yeah. It's certainly. I think I think it's just that little bit going into that undercling, just that first move up into that, going into that makes it that much harder. I think if it had been a boulder problem from there to there, just on the ground, and you had a mat there and you could chalk up, I think you could have done it fairly okay. But just those few moves going into it and not having chalk on your hands makes it that much harder. And also having a rope and a harness on, that little bit of extra weight, and you don't feel quite as free.
Another question. There's a question in the room. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have a question to Adam. We're wondering whether there was any point in terms of your trying at attempting the silence when you thought, okay, I'm just giving up. I'm not going to climb this ever anymore. And if that happened, what was the point that made you actually stick to your project and eventually climb it?
I think the hardest mentally was the summer when I got sick, because before I was training really hard and I had a really high expectation that finally the project hard would start to feel kind of easy. And yes, I would feel some progression, but it would definitely still feel very hard. Way too hard to send it. And I was kind of getting into a little bit of depression, and all of a sudden I got sick for just a couple of days. But that was actually maybe a good thing, because then I would come back with a different approach. In the meantime, the climbing gym would be built, I would get better from the sickness, I would train on the wall, my confidence would slowly grow, and I would just start trying the project with a different approach. Not go and try to do another link or try to send it, but just to give it a try, to feel if I've recovered from the sickness. And all of a sudden, within a week, I was stronger than ever on the project. And that was the turning point from really bottom of total depression almost to feeling, oh, I can do it, and actually quite fast.
Thank you. Another question from the YouTube streaming. Jörg asked, Adam, have you ever had fear of falling in your climbing career?
Fear of falling in sport climbing, that's only many, many years ago. I mean, when I was a 7-year-old kid and I started leading, for sure it was strange at the beginning and I had fear of falling. But then after a while, it just turned into a routine. And as long as it's well bolted and I trust my belayer, trust my gear, I never really get scared. And it's almost like a shame, because a little bit of adrenaline is something that I actually like.
All right. Another question that people are asking, if you will compete in the Olympics or again in the World Cup. Because I really love to remember that Jerry Moffatt is a World Cup winner, but Adam Ondra is the only and the one who won in the same season. People, listen to me. In the same season, the World Championship lead and boulder. And so he's the only in the history of climbing. So the question if you will compete again in the World Cup or in the Olympics.
So 2019, I would like to compete in both lead World Cups and bouldering World Cups. Take it as a preparation for the Olympics in 2020.
All right. And cool. Other question from public.
Yeah, if you think about free soloing, or what's your opinion about that? Thank you.
Free soloing for me is something, it's too much risk involved that you can't really influence. And it's a risk that I don't want to accept. For sure, in our life, there are many situations that we are consciously taking some kind of risk, but free soloing is a risk which is too high. I definitely respect that there are people that are willing to take the risk, and their ability to control their minds in this situation of risk, of danger so tremendously high is impressive, but for me it's not my thing.
All right. Eccolo. Funzionato, Giménez, it works. Wait for the microphone. Wait for the microphone. Thank you.
I was saying I speak for most of the locals here when I ask you if there's any ideas for any grade-breaking routes here in Arco.
I think there is a route that could be a 9C in Arco for sure.
And maybe the other golden boy there can maybe have some advice about that. And even we can even have a question for Jerry, even to say thank you again for of the place that hosted us. So I know that you started climbing there like 25 years ago, or more or less.
Yes.
How was the situation here in that area 30 years ago?
When I first came here, it was very early on. There wasn't any climbing up the valley there. Nearly all the climbing was just climbing out of the lake. So it was just like kind of slabby, white rock kind of in the sun. So it's really come on a long, long way. And it's amazing that we came down here and we didn't find the cliffs. I don't know what we were looking at, but we just like walked around blind and never saw them. So nearly all the climbing was the stuff you could see on the roads around the lakes. So it's just a beautiful place to be. And I think that's one of the ingredients in climbing. As you say, you love climbing, but I think it's all the things that surround the sport. You know, if you're a climber, you're a traveller, you want to go to different areas, and I think that's what makes climbing such a special thing. You know, all the travelling and the scenery and hanging out in different countries and meeting different cultures. And when you travel to different areas, when you meet climbers, immediately you get on very well and you get a good rapport, and people invite you into their houses, and you see different things in the world that you'd see if you were just a tourist staying in a hotel. So it's the part of the whole lifestyle of climbing, I think, is really important.
And how you see, you described us the situation before. Now we are here with Adam and the new statement of sport climbing, that is silence. And from your experience, how you see the future and evolution of climbing at that point of the story?
I think the future, I think the sport will split quite a bit. I think with the Olympics, I think that will take off, and I think people will climb. I think indoor climbing will get more respected, and especially with the Olympics, if somebody's got a gold medal around their neck, it's very hard to say, well, that they're not a real climber because they only climb on plastic, you know, and there'll be a real climber and there'll be the special one. So I think the sport will split a little bit. I think there'll be a lot more of these super expensive walls coming along, and I can see it in the future where you'll get more people climbing who, I mean, obviously they're climbers, but I wouldn't term them as climbers like I'm a climber, climbing on rock and traveling around and wanting to go to different areas. I think they'll use it more as a gymnasium, living in cities, and instead of going to the gym and doing weights, they'll go climbing, because we all know it's a lot more fun than doing weights. Yeah. And I think the sport will split like that. So I think it's early days in our sport, and I think in the next 20 years it will go. I could see it going really massive with the indoor climbing.
All right, thank you. And Bernardo, you are on the stage, so I have to ask you something. And you follow always Adam, but talking about silence, which is the thing that you most hate of follow Adam and stay with him to film the silence, and the one that you most love of that process.
Yeah, this was a very special film for me, because it was the first time I take very serious to make a film, and also because the route is a milestone in the story of climbing, and with Adam, that I work very often with him and I feel very comfortable as well. So
So everything kind of perfection.
Yeah.
All right.
Everything falls in place.
People in the room? All right. Just one last question before I stop the streaming, because I think that, yeah, it could be. One last question from the room. No courage from me. Oh, come on. Glielo traduciamo. Adam sa l'italiano, gliela traduce lui.
Vuoi sapere? Diglielo pure. Quante persone ci sono volute per fare il film?
Corretto. How many people you need to do the movie?
Need to count. Two filmmakers, 2 cameramen, maybe 3, 1 assistant, and 2 editors. Not more, I think. And all the people that help us with carrying gear and stuff. But working in the movie, like 5.
5, 6 people?
Yeah,
well,
around.
It's a good population of
Yeah.
people for a
Yeah,
movie.
of course.
In a world in which today do really short movie like themselves and short and really easy that big production. I mean, 6, 5 people, 10 people.
Of course, but
a big
6 people.
effort. I mean, a big effort of time and person to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6 people make the whole work more easy for sure. Than if you work alone, it's not possible to reach the good level with working alone.
And you really reach a good level. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Last question for Jerry. Jerry, do you have some old project somewhere for Adam?
Oh, God. If I had an old project for Adam, it would be a warm-up for Adam. It wouldn't be a project. He would just go and climb it. No, I don't really have any projects, but I must say it's been, just watching Adam climb today has been really inspiring, and it blows me away how much climbing has improved since I stopped climbing 15 years ago, and I find it very, very exciting still to come out and see a climber climb at the top level. So it's been great watching Adam climb today, and I watched him climb in Spain, and for me it was a real highlight of the year and a real thrill to see something live, climbing something so difficult, climbing so well. So it's been very exciting. And thanks very much for inviting me, Adam. Really appreciate it.
So last question for Adam. Adam, this pitch, it's really a new milestone in the sports of climbing, and especially in your life. And now that you have got that achievement, what about your future, and what are you looking for the next?
I mean, there are so many pieces of rock, there are so many routes, there are so many places on the earth that I want to see that I definitely don't get lack of motivation. It's just maybe even too much. Since once I finish one project, even though this one was super important and took just so much out of me, but at the same time gave so much energy back when it finally happened, the horizons just open up and I can just choose. I can go there, I can go there, I can go there, because Hart's routes are everywhere. And it's frustrating, but super motivating at the same time. Frustrating because I know I will never, ever climb all the routes that I want to, but for sure I will never get bored.
And so, with that answer, with that idea that the motivation and inspiration will never end, I want to thank all the people in streaming. I want to thank all the people in the room. I want to thank Bernardo. But especially, I want to thank Jerry Moffatt and Adam Ondra to be with us. And
thank you. You stand up. Thank you.
More than their presence, I want to thank them for the inspiration they are for everybody else. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, people in the room. And thank to all the people that have seen the show in streaming. Thanks to everybody that followed us. You can recheck all the show on Adam Ondra channel. And so thanks everybody for the streaming. Goodbye.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
It's off.
Nice to be appreciated.
Okay, but we are a funny guy. We can have some extra because now we have ended the streaming. But if you want to come there, have a little moment of talk with Adam, or you could be too much. If you have any question, you can do any other question, and you can touch them. They're real. Real?
Be careful where you touch me.
Okay, all right. I can't let you not touch you. All right, I remember that. Well, anyway, ve lo dico anche in italiano, grazie di cuore a tutti quanti di essere stati qui con noi, grazie del calore che avete dimostrato ad Adam. La cosa più bella per noi è aver sentito il vostro applauso dopo Silence. Adam aveva gli occhi lucidi e stava piangendo. E quindi io vi ringrazio perché tutta questa emozione viene da voi e quindi grazie a tutti quanti. Se avete altre domande, se volete venire qua, ma grazie di essere stati con Adam Ondra e Jerry Moffatt.
Thank you. Well done, good job. Yeah, you did a really good job, well done. A really good job, a lot of work.
It's okay like that, okay.
Cool.
Ma vicino, hai ragione. It was okay. We did it. We did it. We did it.
He did a really good job.
You too.
Great job.
It's the most funny thing is that you can plan everything, but when you are on the stage, it's everything up to improvisation.